We're now up to lesson 3 in the CAGED series, and up to now we've covered a whole bunch of stuff to do with major chords. But in this lesson we're going to expand that and do the same and look at the CAGED system in relation to minor chords and dominant 7 chords. Hello and welcome back to the channel on our continuing voyage to become better guitar players. My name's Mark, and as I just said, this is lesson 3 and now we're on 7th chords and minor chords. So I'm going to start with 7th chords, and just like we did previously, I'm going to take you in the key of C or through all the 5 different shapes that make up CAGED: C, A, G, E and D. Okay, so we're going to start with a C chord like this and turn that into a 7th chord like this. Then we're going to take the A shape here and turn that into a C7 by doing this. So we've done C, A, now we need to move to G. So playing a C chord using the G shape, remember this one? Yeah, as I said, nobody ever plays that as full 6 strings, but there it is. We're going to turn that into a C7 by turning that, if you think of a G7 like this, sorry, G like this, a G7 will be like this. We're basically going to do the same thing here. We're going to take this note here and drop it down 2 frets to here. So we technically get this. But I only ever play those 4 strings, D to top E. So that's our G shape for a C7. C, A, G, E. Now get the E shape, bring it all up here, E7 like this. If you want to get fancy, you can add the little finger there. But I'll play like that. C, A, G, E, and then a D shape would be here. So you get this chord. Now I'm going to expand this and go a few frets higher and take the C chord again, which would be here, but instead of playing it like this, I'm going to play it up here, but I'm only going to play the top 4 strings, and you get a chord that looks like this. If you can see that one, that's a useful little chord. Okay, so we put all of those shapes together, we jam over a C7 backing track, and now we've got a bunch of shapes we can move between. Remember, we're not actually changing chord at any point. We're all just playing C7 chords. We're just playing a bunch of different ones up and down the neck, and that sounds like this. Okay, so that was C7 taken through the 5 CAGED shapes. We're going to do the same thing now with minor. I'm going to change key deliberately, and you'll understand why as we get a little bit further on. But I wanted this kind of start easy and get a little bit more difficult as we go through. But we're going to be in the key of E minor. Okay, so we all know our first E minor chord. It's this one. Okay, so that's the key we're in, so that's our first chord. So instead of counting up C, A, G, E, D, we're going to actually start from the E. So we're going to go C, A, G, E, D, C, A, G. Okay, so we're going to start with our E minor chord here. Okay, so that is the E minor using the E shape, dead easy. Now we're going to do an E minor using a D minor shape, okay? So we're going to take our D minor chord and drag it up to here, play it like this. So that's an E minor using a D shape, D minor shape. I'll be honest, again, I don't play that because it's a little bit of a stretch. I would always just play the top 3 strings. Like that. And the trick there is using your thumb to mute the other strings so that they don't ring out. Okay, so that is E, D. Now we're going to start again, so we get to a C. So we'd normally play an E major using a C chord like this. Remember that one from the previous lesson? So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this C major shape into a C minor shape, playing an E chord. Hope you're keeping with me. Okay, so so that's an E major now, using the C major shape. What we're going to do is turn that minor. So we need to take this note here and drop it down a fret. And we need to take this note here and drop that down a fret. And instantly you see the problem. That's impossible to fret. And this is why I started with an easy chord and built this one, because this is the one that really kind of doesn't work. It's kind of like the impossible chord. So what I do is I keep as much of that as I can and I play this chord instead. Technically that's an E minor 7, not an E minor, but for the purposes of this, it kind of, just go with it, okay? It works. That's a really nice chord. That's a chord I use all the time. It's like a really nice minor chord. Because what you can also do is you can flatten your little finger and you get an E minor 9, and that's kind of like that's a nice chord to use. And you can do those kind of funky things. Anyway, enough of that. Back to the CAGED system. We're playing a we're playing an E minor using a C minor shape, but we don't have a C minor shape, so we're going to use this one instead. We've still got a lot of the C shape. If you think of that original shape, we've still got a bunch of the notes in the same. We're just doing it as this minor 7. And the reason why we do that will become more obvious when we actually start then applying the notes that hang around the chord and we start soloing with this. But for now, just go with it. Trust me, just think of that as an E minor 7 based off a C shape. Okay, enough of that explanation. Now we go with an E minor taken from an A shape. Well, we all know an A minor down here. We're going to drag that up here and we get this chord, which we should all know and love already. Oh, turn my volume up. Okay, so then we got C, A, and now we need to go with the G. So again, if we were playing a G major shape for E, we'd have this. Okay, but we're not playing major, we're playing minor, which means we need to take this note here on the A string and drop that down by a fret. Okay, now the other one that's a problem is this, because this is the major note. So we need to drop that down by a note as well. So you could play it like this, but that doesn't really work because you'd also need an E in the bass. So again, we're going to kind of refinger things around. I would do this as like this. But again, not a chord I really play. I'll be honest, if I'm playing E minor here, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to bar these 3 notes at the 12th fret, the top 3 strings, and then use the D string at the 9th fret. Okay, so yeah, that. If I was there and I wanted to play an E minor, that's the one I'm gonna jump to. Okay, and then we get the regular E minor shape up here as well. Back to where we started, which I would probably just do like this. Okay, so quick recap. E minor in an E shape, E minor in a D shape, E minor in a C shape, E minor from an A shape, E minor from a G shape, back to E minor from an E shape. Okay, so yeah, here's what that sounds like. So let me tell you what we're going to be doing in the next lesson. But before I do, I want to say a quick thank you to the Patreon supporters who make all of this possible. And for that, along this series, they are getting a few extra videos and some practice videos, as well as extra lessons and things and the materials and all that kind of stuff. So big thank you to them. Big thank you to everybody who's left a tip in my PayPal tip jar. And if you haven't already, please do like and subscribe the video. Okay, so what we're going to be doing in the next lesson is we're going to be taking those minor chords, and just like we did in the previous lesson where we took the major chords and looked at the notes that hang around them, we're going to be doing the same, but we're going to be doing it in the minor key. So we're going to take each of those 5 minor positions, and I'll show you the notes that kind of hang around there so we can get to soloing in the minor key as well. And in fact, what I'll do now is I'm going to improvise something using that technique, and that's what we're going to be learning in the next lesson when we come back, where all of these kind of funky notes are. So thank you. I'll see you next time. I'll leave you the name of the Patreon supporters, and here's an improvisation of me playing E minor across the CAGED system right up and down the neck.